Welcome back to another episode of Life with Lamb. Today I'm here with Natasha Kons. Natasha is the founder of YKids Hub and Kons Painting, now Kons Cleaning, probably when the episode releases. And she's also the author of My Many Me's and More Disorders. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling today?
They're pretty good.
You're a busy woman. I feel like it's been a nice back and forth between the two of us. And I guess for context for the listeners as well, I saw a story from Tink, one of my mutuals or friends, or I don't know, in this whole wide world of social media and everything, everyone's pretty interconnected. And you were sort of standing behind the YKids banner, and I was getting curious and shot her a text and was like, what is this? What's happening here? And I guess here we are. So for the listeners, can you talk to us a bit about yourself?
Yes. So I am 24 years old and I run my own painting company and just opened up a cleaning one with my sister and a gardening landscaping. And it all falls under the Kons empire.
Which is probably why we're changing from Kons Painting to Kons Cleaning, which is incredible. So many businesses. Yes. And I'm really excited to unpack the story of what's made you you. I think the preface for Life with Lamb, and I probably should have briefed you beforehand, is navigating career trajectories and finding your passion and doing something that you love. I think that's always struck out to me. Like, my mum's been extremely entrepreneurial in the past and still is. Like, she runs her own PT business. Dad's super hardworking as well. So I've just sort of picked and prodded and chosen all these different characteristics and sort of want to interview people like yourself who are pursuing something that they love. So has the entrepreneurial route always been sort of in your trajectory, or was it something that just came along? How did you uncover it?
Yeah, well, so my parents are very entrepreneurial. My dad runs a seafood company, imports and exports organic seafood. And just seeing that through my whole upbringing, seeing him really work hard has made me motivated to do the same thing. And also going through high school, not wanting to stay with the education system, I took a different route, and I thought that creating my own business was going to help. So, yeah. You
mentioned different. What was different, and what did that look like?
In school?
Yeah.
So obviously with the dyslexia, it wasn't easy to be that great in school. And also just having the understanding that we were very heavily programmed and very limited in what we learnt. And just with the growth in creativity within youth, it was very restricting, and I didn't like it. And I felt that there was a lot of authority, hierarchy situation going on with the parents and teachers and students, and it just didn't really align with me. And yeah, I kind of just withdrew because I didn't have any respect for it.
Crazy to do that at such a young age. Yeah. And it's something that I reflect back on having now, finished university, as we were talking off air about. And we are sold this, program or narrative or storyline or trajectory that we're meant to follow. And unfortunately, people like yourself who potentially have these issues like dyslexia or problems that aren't necessarily to your own fault or brought upon by yourself, sometimes you have those learning disabilities and it makes you unable to subscribe to this system. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that made you feel as well? Like, were you judged or picked on at all because of your sort of learning incapability?
Yeah, so it was mostly in primary school. I was bullied quite heavily for being dumb. And as a kid, you just hear that, you're like, oh, I must be dumb.
Kids are the worst.
It's shocking.
Kids are
honestly
shocking. Oh my gosh, they just say it.
It's literally, they're very honest. 100%. And they don't care.
Yeah, literally, just say it how it is.
Yeah.
And how did that sort of impact the way that you grew up and your self-worth and confidence?
Yeah, it really put a number on my self-worth, and I had a lot of insecurities because of it, because being constantly told that I was dumb and then I was fat, I grew to have a very, I guess, warped idea of how I was as a human with my body weight and my mental state, I guess. And it really led me up for a bit of failure, not in the healthiest way. But yeah, it's just like, because it was such a young age, I think it was 4 years old, you go into prep. I was very insecure about my body. I was like sucking in my gut in the school carnival at 4 years old. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty wild. I remember stories of, I don't know, kids, I don't know, how to get a six-pack before, like just swimming carnival and doing push-ups and sit-ups in your bedroom before the carnival. But seriously, those things can be traumatic for kids, and it's one of those things that are like expected upon you, that you should be competing and you should be participating. And I never saw that because, well, I resonated with the swimming part. And I was like, oh, swimming carnival, so fun. But I can totally understand from like your perspective, hey, this is like not the best situation that I want to be in, but unfortunately I have to be involved with it. So, and it's much like the schooling system as well. It's not for everyone, but in society, education, don't get me wrong, there's so much importance in education, but there's only so much that you can learn in these sort of four walls that you can find in throughout your schooling period.
Yeah, and it's mostly just a one-fits-all. Like they're only kind of creating a situation for the one type of learning behaviours, and the rest of the kids that are falling behind, there's no really room for growth, because it's like, let's not go back on the problem that we don't understand. We're going to skip to the next chapter. And then those kids that are falling behind and haven't had the actual lesson in itself are not even going to understand next year's learnings, because the foundation is not even there.
Absolutely. Can you speak from your perspective as to how that made you feel? When did we drop out?
So I finished year 10 and dropped out after then. So, yeah.
So from year 7 to 10, pretty formative years, I would say. A very short-lived life, obviously. We're both still pretty young. But yeah, those years I think really stick out. You're trying to find your way in this schooling system, trying to find your people, trying to find, the groups that are a bit more popular, trying to do really well in academia as well. So how did that all make you feel?
I kind of withdrew, I think, a lot. And when I did have friends, I kind of ended friendship circles, and I was just always withdrawing back home, didn't want to talk to anybody, and I kind of fell into a little bit of a depression. And and through that, I also started experiencing seizures. So I was missing out on a lot of school, and I was always in and out of hospital. And I think it was at 16, it was a very hard time, because you're still growing, you're still figuring out who you are, and then your body's doing these weird and wonderful things. So it was very confusing. But yeah, it was just a lot for me when I was 16.
Definitely. To be a woman as well, I feel like you guys have it a lot worse than guys. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, we won't dive into that rabbit hole. But you talk about the seizures. Can you describe sort of when it first happened and how everyone around you reacted, but also how you reacted?
Yeah, so I think the first one, I started having a lot of chest pain, and we went into hospital, and then I started having a seizure. And it's just like my whole body convulsing, and I think it lasted about an hour. So it's not epilepsy, it's like pseudo seizures is what they called it. So it would last anything from an hour and a half to 2 hours and a half.
You're joking. Yeah. So your body is just like contorting for that. Oh my gosh.
It's a bit of a workout.
It's a bit of a workout.
I got some nice abs.
Oh my gosh. No, we can't turn it into this. But pretty scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
Did you sort of know, so you could feel it coming, right? Like the chest pains were happening. They drove you to hospital, is that
right? The first area is a bit foggy to me, because there were just so many that I kind of all ran them into my memory as one. But they mostly start, I can feel it coming on. So I have maybe like a couple of hours max of understanding when it's going to come. And then I'll put myself in a situation where I know I can lie on the floor and I'll calm myself. But for the first times, there was always usually a symptom before, whether it was like a really bad earache or problems breathing or chest pain or whatever it was. And and then I guess going into hospital, you're having heaps of blood tests and the ECGs, monitoring your heart, figuring out what's wrong. And the doctors, I think at one point they came up to me and they rolled me into this really white room and they were like, look, you could have a possibility of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, an eating disorder, depression and anxiety.
Everything.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a nice draw to pick from. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah.
And there's like no closure at all. So
No.
how did that make you feel? Like, I can imagine how stressful that situation
Yeah,
would
it
be.
made me feel like I was insane. I was like, wow, I'm not mentally okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess because there's panic attacks, and I've seen a couple panic attacks. I myself haven't had one. Can you sort of describe the difference between the two? Like, did it feel like a panic attack? Have you had a panic attack
I
before?
have had a panic attack. I've had a few. But with seizures, your whole body is just shaking everywhere, and I'm half conscious. So I go in and out of states, and sometimes I just pass out and I fall asleep. And then I'll wake myself up and I have heart problems breathing. So sometimes they've got to watch out for me not to choke on my tongue or something. And then when it got worse, there was always a fear of me going into cardiac arrest. So it was kind of a bit dangerous. Yeah.
So it's like a miracle almost. Like you've sort of gone through all these symptoms and you were never properly diagnosed, were you?
No.
Wow. The clarity and closure is incredible. What a position to navigate around. What was the family like in this whole situation?
So my family were really supportive and they were really good, but it obviously played a huge toll on them because they were all dealing with obviously a loved one going through so much pain. And I guess it's a different experience witnessing this as me just going through it, because I had an understanding that I would always be fine, but then I could understand from my mother seeing me, her daughter, seizuring and being like non-responsive is just next level.
Literally. And how long have you had a seizure since?
I think the last time I had one was probably at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And it was more so to do with stress. So it was a compilation of stress, low potassium, and then other factors of other things that were going on.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. All right. And so I guess it's like been quite a while since you have had your last one, but how frequent would these happen and how did that sort of impact you growing up?
Yeah, so the beginning year, I think it was happening maybe like a few times a week, but in the first 6 months it was like twice a day. It was a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Twice a day.
Yeah.
And where are you in this whole
I
thing?
think
So were you
when I
at
was
school or
16,
you at
I was
home?
at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, around school.
And did it, so it would have happened at school?
Yeah.
And how did that all unfold? I'm just really
Yeah,
curious. Like,
so-
I'm just
Yeah,
never
like
come across someone having like so many seizures as well.
yeah. So I was lucky enough to have my sister in the year above. So every time that I would have a seizure, the principal or the announcement was like, Maddie Kons, can you please come? And your sister's having a seizure again.
She was like oh my God, allocated like paramedic even.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So your sister would help you like calm down. and-
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the school, we had a meeting and they said, look, you've probably got to seek out some other arrangements because we can't offer help here because we don't know what to do. And that was kind of a blessing. Not kind of. I was just so happy that they had that chat because I didn't want to be there.
Yeah, right. So this is like peak of sort of year 10 when you started leaving.
So I dropped out after I finished year 10 and then I started bricklaying and then I was having seizures then, so I had to stop, and then I went back to school for 2 weeks or something, and then that's when they said you have to leave.
Wow. And I guess you speak to it as a blessing as well because you didn't necessarily align yourself with the schooling system. So what happened then? You know, I think we always think about like what's next, particularly when we're programmed in a way where it's like, well, prep to 6, 7 to 12, then your tertiary education, and then your grad job, and then you make a family, and then like, and then. But when you cut it off at year 10, a lot of people are like, oh my God, hold up. Like, what's happening here? You're a dropkick. Like, what's happening? Sort of thing. So what is happening?
Yeah, so from a very young age, I've always loved wellness, and there's my passion. And I knew that I wasn't mentally well So I made a pact with myself. Instead of going to school, I would really start understanding and educating myself on how to become a really happy person. So I said to myself, mental health is first. So I don't care about if I'm not being educated in school. I want to really focus on my happiness. And I did that, but then also started a business diploma on the side. So that kind of helped me. And then after that, and then realizing everything that was going on with my seizures and my little journey with that, I started to write my book.
Incredible. Yeah. What was the oh shit moment with the seizures? Like, can you describe where it was that you figured it out in terms of, oh, this is happening to me, and this is why?
Yeah, so I had a very interesting experience happen to me. While I was in hospital, I started seeing spirits, and they would show me different stories, and I would just communicate with some. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And that's where the schizophrenia and bipolar thing came about.
Okay, I see. So you could legit see like spirits.
Yeah.
Like people talking. Could you make them out as people, or were they just like, oh wow,
so the first one that came to me was an old woman. And I remember distinctively, I was like, Mum, this woman wants you to stand next to her at the head of my hospital bed. She's like, there's no one there. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
And I was like, you just got to do it. Just stand at the front of the bed. And so she did. And all of a sudden, this old woman, there was like this black entity that was coming out of her. And I was just like witnessing this whole thing whilst I was having a seizure. And my mum, the old woman hugged my mum, and she wanted me to tell her that she was so thankful. But then she looked at me and she's like, you have to remember this. Like, there's something about this situation that you're going to like need to remember. And I was like, okay. So when that stopped, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that, I had been learning about different occult things and just dabbling into witchcraft.
Oh my God.
And just to see what was out there. And I had picked up some bad energy, and I started being not myself. Like, I was talking differently. My whole persona was like completely different. My whole body language, my parents were like, there's something on, like there's something off about her. And I just remember looking at my dog at one point, and I was just like, this is not my dog. And I just had some really bad thoughts. So I scared myself, and I ran out of the house, and I was walking into the park crying my eyes out. And I started speaking in this different tongue, and I was like, this is not right. And I was like screaming, you need to get out. Like, what the hell? And then somehow my mom found me, picked me up, and we went back home. And then she was like holding me, and I was like shaking. And then there was like this lift, and there was this black energy coming out of me. And then I remembered it was this woman saying, you need your mom to ground you and like release this thing. Yeah, one of the stories, that was only one. But the experience that I wanted to say is when I was in hospital, I was dying and I was having a seizure. There were hands all over my left side of my body, like pulling me towards wherever they were going. And because at that time I was very depressed, I wanted to go. And like the heart rate monitor was going very slow. My mum was crying. She thought I was going to die. And I was like, oh, I just want to leave. Like, this is fine. I'm happy. This is okay. And then all of a sudden there was like this really distinctive voice that was like, okay, you can go, or you can stay and you can help other people, other kids, youth, going through similar experiences and getting out of it because you had the right supportive network to do it. And now that you know, you're going to be able to impact a lot of people's lives and help people going through the same thing.
What the fuck? And then cue in YKids. Wait, that is insane. That's so much to process. Yeah. I feel like most people that I interview, they're like, oh, you know, like I was lying in bed one day and I was just thinking, oh, so, and sorry, this is actually, that's a bit too lighthearted. That's my bad. But, yeah, they're lying in bed and they have the epiphany that they could keep going down like a certain route and potentially not be there, or they could work their way up into finding something that they love. And that's the narrative. and it's not like a spiritual thing. I don't know how many people are spiritual that listen to the podcast, but can you talk to us a bit about it? You know, like it's definitely not a domain that I ever thought I'd cover on a podcast, but yeah, talk to us a bit about it. I have absolutely no clue about any of it.
So I don't know. I guess I was really lucky that I had a lot of inner wisdom, and then with my mum being very open, we kind of went down the alternative route, and we started speaking to all these different energy healers and whatnot, and then picking and choosing who the right ones were, because there are a lot of people that are kind of just there thinking that they're really amazing and they know the path and come to me, you just need to give me a little bit of money and
absolutely.
We'll be fine.
And is there a big like spirit scene in Melbourne?
Oh, it's massive.
Is it?
Massive.
But there's also people who are just like,
yeah,
I'm into spirits and
yeah.
Give me your money.
The commercialized
Yeah.
one. And then there's like the true authentic people that do not advertise. It's only through word of mouth, and you've got to like have a certain...
Wow.
Yeah.
And so is that how you sort of differentiate between the two? It's like one is really commercialized, hence like they're not as good.
Yeah.
And it's just like a money grab, whereas the other ones are just lay low.
Yeah. The really authentic ones is mostly the community, and it's not so that like, oh, I've got a business, you come here. It's like we're really helping people, but we're keeping it small because we want to really impact people's lives. Yeah. So.
Wow. And can you do a Google search for this, or is this you said like word of mouth? Where did you sort of find the outlets?
I believe because we were on this path, we opened ourselves up in order to receiving the best people for it, and just through like attraction, we kind of connected. Yeah, God made it the way.
Literally. Alrighty. I don't know how many listeners are just like in disbelief right now, because I certainly am in disbelief. But yeah, it seems incredible, the whole story and being able to see those things. Let's definitely cue it into YKids. Talk to us a bit about it. What is it? It's the thing that I saw on that banner and did a cheeky dive and was like, what is this all about? But yeah, talk to us about it.
Yeah, so YKids Hub is essentially, we want to create centres and offer wellness programs and have different facilities. And the end goal is to have all these centres around different suburbs and then Australia and then internationally. Big thinking. But so we have veggie gardens. We teach the kids how to grow their own produce. We teach them the nutritional value and how it affects the brain, like different food sources and everything. Have kitchens, teach them how to cook, meditation areas, appreciation spaces, places for kids to come and study online, because a lot of kids through COVID are resorting to homeschooling and they're lacking the social interaction. So we've got places, we want to create spaces where they can come and have that, and also inviting different professions to come in and talk to the kids and explain what they do so they can get a feel of different things, you know, potentially what they want to do, because we're very limited in school where we say you can become a lawyer, you can become a doctor or whatever, and there's a whole different other branch out there for something that, you know, aligns with each individual. So we just want to create that, and then also bring it back to basics. Like, we want to have common sense, and we want to create a community again where people are teaming for each other and we have support and love. And it's not just like, you know, when you go to a psychologist, you have 1 hour and then it's next week. There's no real like true connection. Like, I want to help you. Like, obviously psychologists are great. I think they're amazing. But like, the real essence of someone wanting to help, like a sibling or a parent or a good friend, it's like you're there no matter what, and you know that you can call on them. And that's what I want to create with YKids Hub, is a place where kids can come to feel wanted and seen, and they can learn about how to cope with the everyday stresses of life and how to regulate their emotions and be around people that really love them. So, yeah.
Brilliant. So many questions. Firstly, other than the spirit popping out, and then the left hand side pulling you, and then the whole sort of proposition about you can slowly fade away now, or you can continue and bring light to kids and pave a pathway for them so that they can experience a better upbringing, one that you wished you had instead. Other than that whole scenario, what other motivators were there for starting YKids?
I guess at that time I was just more so on YouTube researching about laws of attraction and manifestations and how that's a huge thing. And I realized through that is however you see yourself and whatever you feel about yourself is what you attract, essentially. So if you don't feel worthy or you don't feel loved, or, you know, all those negative emotions, that's something that you're going to attract in the future. The understanding of self-love, self-worth, and all those things, you can create better situations in life. And giving that to each individual child will create such a better society in the future. Prevention is better than the cure.
100%. No, I love that. I think in terms of spirituality and beliefs such as that, manifestation is one that always pops up. It's one of those things that, when you do believe in yourself, normally things do happen. And when you let negative thoughts cloud your mind or start to infect sort of the way that you go about your life, it starts to bleed through because you start to think about it. There's obviously the running jokes of don't say it, it will come true and everything. But I think it's really true. I don't know what the science is behind it or what's happening in the world to make that a reality, but there is definitely something about manifesting and being able to think positively so that positive outcomes can happen, and thinking negatively and negative outcomes can happen.
No, 100%. And it's also when you shouting affirmations in the mirror, if you're not energetically feeling those emotions, it won't go past the brainstem. So you have to sit with the emotion and bring that elevated feeling up, and then it will actually attract.
Definitely. Yeah. I love that. Oh, I love that so much. That's so good. So the motivation behind YKids is, to better other children, but also to prevent rather than cure.
Yeah.
There we go. We got it. I guess, how does that align with your own personal mission / values?
Yes, so I kind of understood where my mindset was at a young age. I didn't have a lot of self-worth. I did not love who I was and my body. And I could see the situations that I was creating. And because I went through certain situations and experiences and I changed them, I understand how, as a young person, knowing where your flaws are and changing those can actually aid to so much success, not financial, but every area in your life. And having that personal experience and telling someone who's going through a very similar situation, no, I kind of understand, I've been through a similar experience, has so much more profound impact than a psychologist that's 30 years older than you telling you that, no, it's going to be fine. You're not really going to really listen to them full-heartedly, because it's you don't know my situation.
Definitely, especially through an hourly appointment every weekly, even monthly as well. Some people do the check. I think it's a great place to start, but there's definitely that sort of disconnect, and it is a very monetary based system where it's I'm paying for this appointment, and my God, I've seen some of the prices. They're very pricey. Far out. You mentioned sort of teaching kids common sense. I think you found a solve to the world, because far out, how do you teach common sense? Crazy. But how do you actually approach mentoring? You have the initiatives of the cooking, the gardening, and also the meditation as well. Are they the three sort of disciplines or channels that you go through, or do you have different techniques that you utilize to teach kids?
Yeah, I think the most important one is in like going back to nature. So the gardening is a huge one, and because kids need to be in nature all the time to grow, and nature has a lot of lessons to be learned. Even when you're like planting a seed and you have to water it and tend to it and look after it, and then you see this beautiful plant come and then it gives you some fruit, and then you take the seed from that fruit and then you do it again, and the kids kind of understand as a visual exercise what you sow is what you reap, and you have to do it for yourself as well. And having that visual learning is just such a great impact for kids.
Absolutely. You just sparked a moment for me, but I had a swimming coach who most definitely wasn't your traditional swimming coach, where it was like lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, and then it was just 5 a.m. wake ups, and then after school sessions and everything. He just had like sort of 3 sessions throughout the week, but he did a lot of land training with myself and my brother, because we were sort of getting to like that level where it was like we might be exceeding past the school, like we were the top swimmers there. Could potentially go to squads, but something that just stuck out to me was his philosophy on how connected sort of you are to nature, and the translation that it has in your swimming. So he got us to do like lots of climbing on the playground, like being surrounded by nature, doing these different on land sort of activities, and it translated into swimming. That's like a small little analogy for nature and how important it is, but there's obviously study about how even just going for a walk without headphones on now and just listening to the sounds around you, doing it barefoot as well, like grounding. I don't know if that's something that you've tried or anything. I was trying it the other day. I felt like really energized by it, weirdly, which was just like, how is this possible? But I guess like all things do come from nature, so it does make sense to start immersing yourself in nature. So I love that philosophy about the gardening. Yeah. I guess, where are you based actually?
In Brighton.
In Brighton at the moment. Yeah. And do you have like a set location where you're doing the cooking and the meditation?
So we're renovating a space on Centre Road in Bentley at the moment, and we're going to have that just as the front forum to get people to come and join these groups. So what we're starting off with is just having youth groups where we can all learn from each other, and it's just a supportive network, and we teach the kids how to regulate their emotions, meditate, go for walks, play soccer in the park, or also do community work where we could, go to an elderly woman's house that doesn't have that much help or support, and we can tend to her garden, and then we teach the kids how important it is to like share and help others, and whether it's cleaning up the beaches and showing the initiative that we can instill in children.
Definitely. Very altruistic values, which I think are so important but are very far gone in today's society. So be it, like so call it, I guess. I think everyone's very financially motivated, and I guess you reflect back on, the programming. It's like, well, got to do school so I can have a really good education, so I can get that law degree or that job in medicine and earn shit tons of money, that sort of thing. What is your view on like how society is at the moment, and what are the little steps that you're doing to try and not fix it or change it completely, but remedy it and bring it back to things like the cycle of growth and bring it back to nature?
Yeah, so what I've seen as a society as a whole is we are trying to separate people so we can create more consumers. And when we can tear families apart, and then we're having a breakup culture at the moment where it's like, nah, stuff him, he hasn't done this for me, and we're dividing feminine and masculine, and we're not creating a healthy stigma for understanding our unique ways of living and coexisting together. And the minute that we don't do that, there's a lot of financial gain for people that are higher up.
100%. I think it relates heavily with, so I did marketing as one of my degrees, and it's always segment, target, position, segment, target, position. It's just like over and over and over, and it's like get really specific about your audience, and then that's how you market to them. And it's just like they feed it through to us, and yeah, it's so true. Like the positioning and targeting that, oh my God, literally the marketing basically that is fed through to us is warping and changing our perception. Can you expand on that as well? Like, have you had any experience where that sort of, where that has happened to you?
Yes, so obviously now that technology is so readily available and you can go on TikTok and Reels and you're watching all of these things, let's say I'm interested in understanding a bit more about relationships, and the algorithms are just going to pop up more and more and more. And if I'm heading down an area where I'm not feeling wanted by a man or respected, I'm going to be like, I agree with this, and then keep watching more and more and more. And I'm going to get slowly brainwashed into thinking that the man is worse and he should respect me, but I'm not understanding where my faults are lying and what I need to bring to the table, and I've got to fix myself first. And it's just changing this whole different way of kind of what I should be, and I'm just going down a negative rabbit hole where I'm not healthily like being someone that's aiding to the growth of what we could be. And I feel like it influenced me a lot in my last relationship, because it was always the other person's doing this wrong, and I was never really understanding completely what I was doing wrong. So that was a huge slap in the face to me.
Yeah. Well done for admitting it as well. I think half the battle is being able to identify that and having that self-awareness to recognize that, hey, like maybe what I was doing in that relationship wasn't necessarily the best for the both of us. But I think like relationships, you can flip that lens and be like, well, each one is a stepping stone. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to put aside some memories and it can sting for a little bit, like ripping off the Band-Aid. But I think in the long term, and as long as you learn from it, you can definitely benefit from it as well. Confirmation bias is the thing that came up. So the confirmation bias of scrolling through and the algorithm feeding it to you is like, well, this confirms my belief,
Yeah.
and then it just is an endless cycle, and you have no capacity to look within and understand and recognize your own faults, because that's the hard thing to do. That's the hard thing, to look in and be like, well, where am I going wrong? It's easier to put the blame on someone else. So 100% a normal thing to do. Like, I'm sure everyone does it.
Yeah,
but it's about calling it out.
That's how we create a belief, is like a habitual programming of one same thought. So it could be something completely wrong, but over time, because you've listened to it so much, it's such a core belief now. And that's a dangerous game.
Literally. Tash, you're a busy woman. You know, like you've done a lot of things. Started this YKids. Would you say, so is it a charity or a non-for-profit?
We're still figuring that one out.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah, I know. Like, I guess it's easier to label it for people so that they understand. But it's incredible that you're going ahead with this initiative. And then you've written a book as well, which is incredible. And you're balancing Kons cleaning now. I guess like running a successful business and mentoring youth can be extremely taxing and everything. What is your weekly ritual? Like, do you have a certain scheduling program? Like, how do you go about balancing all these things?
Yeah, so I like to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I do see that on your story a lot. We're following each other and I'm just like, what the hell? There's just, anyway, continue. Sorry. So, you're like finished with your session at like 5:37 a.m. I'm like barely out of bed. No, I'm out of bed at like, anyway, continue. Yeah. Sorry.
So, like, I'm not doing it every day because sometimes I'm working a lot and I need to have the rest. But waking up at 4, usually meditating for an hour and then going to the gym and then starting my work day. But the most important thing for me is meditation, and I've been doing it every day since February. And what meditation does is, so there are 2 points in the day where you can reach your subconscious, and it's the morning and at nighttime, and you're very susceptible towards information coming in. So I do it in the morning when all the brainwaves are very...
waving.
Yeah. And so you sit with yourself, you close into blackness, darkness, emptiness, and you're extracting all of your known energy out in the world, because everything holds your energy and your information. So let's say your car holds your energy, your parents, your siblings, your animals, like everything, the school you went to in high school, primary school, the trip you went over to overseas, you have an energy tie to all those places. And when you meditate, you kind of shut it off and you're going into this darkness. And what that does is you're drawing all your energy back to your body. And when you do that, you have more time to heal your body and to create situations. So what I do it for is overcoming my emotions. So whether it was to do with insecurity or low self-esteem, not having the confidence to talk to people, having a negative stigma about a certain thing or whatever. So you prime your subconscious into elevating heightened emotions, so it comes out more during the day. So if you sit with yourself and you take, I don't know if it takes 20 minutes, takes half an hour to an hour to reach such a moment of coherent, like your body starts to become coherent and your heart rate kind of changes. And that's when you bring those emotions up, whether it's love, wholeness, self-worth, all of those good things. And you feel it and you sit with it. You're programming yourself for the whole day to be like that. And consistently doing that, you're going to change your whole personality and your energy field. So I think it's essential.
Incredible. Do you enter meditation with the intention of this is the emotion that I want to feel, or is it as soon as you achieve that sort of subconscious?
Yeah, so I do a guided meditation through Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he actually explains scientifically how all of this works. And yeah, so he brings up the emotions that you want to feel, and then he'll kind of reprogram your subconscious.
Incredible.
Into that.
Yeah, so what does it look like for you? Are you sitting in your bedroom? Is it like dark? Is it light? Like what's happening and what's the environment looking like?
So I mostly just sit on my bed, but I have to have like heaps of pillows behind me, sit up straight. You can't lie down, because if you lie down, your body's going to be like, what do we do when we lie down? We fall asleep. So you're going to obviously fall asleep. So you sit up, I place my hands on my knees and I cross my legs and then go for it.
Incredible. Have you noticed a difference?
Oh, completely.
Could you talk to us about the juxtaposition between starting to now?
Yeah. So my whole mindset was completely different. Like my whole family know now that I'm just a different person. And everybody that knows me can see a drastic change. But I'm now confident in talking to people, and it's helped me with my business as well. I got rid of my body dysmorphia, which is fantastic. And
I love that phrasing as well. Like, just got rid of it.
Yeah, literally, it's
just like
no more. Different personality doesn't exist in me now. So yeah,
it's one of those things that you most definitely can get rid of with the right sort of mentality and everything. Yeah,
it takes time.
Absolutely.
Because I had 7 years of bulimia, and it was like really heavily impacted. That because I had anorexia. And then obviously you think you're really fat when you're just tiny. So that whole, like the heaviness of the different psychological understanding of how you look is just crazy. And then getting over that has just been an absolute miracle. So, yeah.
So good. I'll have to try it. You'll have to send me the link to the guided meditation, because it's one of those things, it's so prominent now. Everyone's really talking about it, and the wellness space is getting the recognition that it deserves, I think. Sometimes people can misconstrue a little bit of information and make it seem like it's going to be extremely beneficial, and it's sort of important to understand the fine line between the two of it, between like what's actually real and what's actually just like commercialized. So basically what the spiritual, what do you call them? Sorry? The spiritual...
like
readers,
energy healers.
Energy healers.
I don't even like saying that because it has such a bad stigma to it. I'm like,
literally.
oh, what are witches? No,
Well, energy healers. Yeah, it's like the commercialized aspect of it, but yeah, incredible. I have to give it a shot. So, when do you sleep? Like, you're up at 4 a.m. Are you on the like 8-hour bandwagon? Like, what's happening with the sleep?
Yeah, I try to go to bed at 8:30, but sometimes I can't. I'm like, max is 10:30.
Yeah.
But yeah, around the 8, 9.
Incredible. And where would you say like a lot of your time is allocated? I think I always dreaded a 9 to 5 because I was like, oh, like what a waste of a life. But then I look at myself and the hours that I'm putting into like podcasting and content creation, and it's almost like more than what a 9 to 5 would be each day. Is that something that you found as well?
Yeah, totally. So I put most of my time into my painting because I'm getting a lot of jobs, and I just started with 2 insurance companies and another construction company that are doing really well. So I was at a time doing 95 hours a week, and it was just like hard labor. So it was really demanding on the body, but because I enjoyed it so much, I just pulled through. But yeah, definitely. That's mostly where this time goes.
Have you faced burnout yet?
I had maybe like 3 days of burnout, and I think everyone was telling me, you're going to burn out. You're literally heading for disaster. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. No, it's not me. And then I did experience it. But
3 days is small. Like,
yeah.
Not one of those big periods where, nothing really is happening and you've just really burnt yourself out.
Yeah.
Would you attribute that to sort of the rituals that you've put in place and the mindset that you've developed?
100%.
Incredible. Because I was wondering, like, has there been like a month of you just being like, oh no, like fuck this, like I can't do that?
Absolutely not.
No, but three days, that's it.
Yeah. I was still working in it, but I just like felt defeated. I was like, I don't know if I can continue. And then I had a really good meditation. I was like, nah, we're back on.
Fuck yeah, manifest that shit. I love it so much. Yeah, far out. I had like a couple questions about sort of your childhood again, just to dial it back. And it sort of prefaced like health challenges, relationship challenges, and career challenges as well. I guess like your journey has been filled with all these difficult health challenges that were life-threatening. And you even mentioned the anorexia as well, which I think I read on our guest form, but thank you for bringing it up as well. Like, there's a lot of challenges that have been thrown your way. I guess, how did the experiences from these change your perspective on life?
It gave me a very unique opportunity because I was so down in the dumps that it made me look at reality on a very different playing field. And in that sense, I'm very kind of grateful. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just grateful for it because it made me realize on what people go through, but also how we can get out of it. Because I know when I was going through hard times, I thought that there was literally no hope. Like, I 100% thought that I was never going to become well. And I was like, this is just not for me. I can't do it. It's so hard. I'm not like everybody else. It's never going to happen. And then when I started hearing stories about people going through the same thing, it made me realize that I can do it. And through the power of people telling their stories, it gave me a huge motivation to start talking about mine.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing it as well. It's like, it's so incredible, the stories that you get to hear from people like yourself. And it's a privilege to be podcasting. I was going to add to the fact that, and obviously not many people can experience it, but if you can experience life-threatening or challenging situations, I think it broadens your perspective on life, and you start to realize how privileged we are to be living in, for both of us, Melbourne or Australia, a very lovely country and full of opportunities and things to do. But it also brought to my attention, it's like when it's all said and done and we're on our deathbed as well, it's like that's when it matters, like the legacy that you leave behind and those sorts of things. So like, be grateful of the opportunity that you have. Yes, your situation might be shit, but like, we're not dead, and we still have plenty of opportunity to pick ourselves up from it. The relationship one, you mentioned your like toxic relationship.
Yeah.
We can bring that up, but I was also going to say just like your relationship with yourself as well has been pretty up and down. Anorexia comes into play where body dysmorphia is such a huge thing. And it seems from the way that you've been speaking about it as like such a huge thing. I guess like how did you find the strength to break free from it? You know, like did you just suddenly stumble upon meditation or, obviously the spiritual stuff happened as well. What was it that ultimately brought you out to find the courage to be a better person?
I guess because I always had the understanding of like the love for wellness and the understanding of all these different things that was always in the back of my head, and it was just lingering there. It's like, you can do better. And then I was like, no, but I don't have the strength to. It's so hard. And then I tried to get out of it and I was like, nah, today's the day. I'm going to do it. And then I would default and go back. And then I was like, nah, it's too hard. But I guess over time, I kind of built myself up to this day where you make the clear intention, like such a clear intention of what you're going to do. Like, this is it. I'm going to change. And you have to bring such energy with that it like goes to your brainstem and tells your whole body and all your cells, this is it. She's stopping. Like, we've got to do this. And I feel like as humans, we all know how to change and we all do it, is making that clear intention. And you sit with yourself and you're like, if this situation arises again, this is what I'm going to do. I don't want to think these thoughts. I don't want to hang around these people that are going to provoke me to doing this. Then you have a look about your life and you see what you're going to do and what you're going to change. And at that moment, if you bring such energy with it, you will be able to change.
Incredible. Yeah. Even I don't know if you've heard of it, but, like if you're stuck in bed, scrolling TikTok or something and like you really need to go out and do something, it's like the 3-2-1 method.
Yeah.
I think it's, as humans, we know that we need to change and we sometimes know how to as well, even though we do say like, oh, I'm pretty lost, don't know what I'm going to do, that whole narrative as well. But it's a matter of when you do it. Always, I'm the type of person that's like, oh yeah, at the start of the week, I'm going to start doing this. And then you just prolong.
Tomorrow's a better day.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow's a better day. But I think it's really cool, like outlining a really clear intention and a specific time or date or moment that you're going to change, whether that be, the 3-2-1 method or in your case, like that day that you changed. I think it's a very important takeaway to implement in your own life. Also on TikTok as well, how you're talking about the meditation and tapping into your subconscious. How crazy that it's like when we wake up, it's like on our phone scrolling, and then when we go to bed, it's like on our phone scrolling as well. That impacts our like subconscious. I just put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's why it's so important to stay off your phone for an hour before you go to bed and not look at it first thing in the morning.
Literally, it's something that I'm just like, oh my God, I need to do that.
Yeah.
I need to do that so bad. Do you do that yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing the meditation, hey? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just jump on, just press play, and then you're off.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Oh my God. Yeah, see, it's like I know I have to, but it's like a matter of...
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to learn that your body only wants to stay in the familiar. So whatever you're used to, whether it's feeling really negative thoughts or scrolling on TikTok for hours, or how many hours a day, your body is so used to that and it's trying to bring up those same feelings and emotions in order for you to reach to your phone and go on TikTok or think a negative thought. So it's going to stimulate those genes to be like, let's have some negative self-talk and make you feel really shitty, because that's what we're used to and that's what feels familiar. So when you say, no, I'm going to stop judging, I'm going to stop feeling negative thoughts, I'm going to stop negative talk, the minute that you think that, your body is going to feel uncomfortable because it's not familiar. And the understanding that it's like your body over mind, you have to let your mind know that your body's going to start sending signals, sending those same thoughts and behaviors to reach to your phone or to think those thoughts. You've just got to be like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, but we're not going back there. That's it.
That's it. I love it. Yeah, so good. I mean, I guess it's easier said than done. Do you have any ways of approaching it, or are you literally just like, no?
The more knowledge that you have is way better because it makes your brain understand, okay, if this is what's actually happening because of this and it's all based on science, you're going to be like, oh, now I actually really need to change if I want to get somewhere.
100%. So finding like the facts to back it up and having that logic and rationale to clearly justify, okay, this is like obviously not good. Like I get that small dopamine hit from it, but in the long run, it's not that good for me.
And seeing evidence of people changing.
Yeah, I love that. Career is the last one that I wanted to touch on. So like, you're running Cons Cleaning, YKids, you've written a book and dabbled down into sort of pathways that people might attribute this sort of stigma that you need to be like well educated or a high achiever to achieve these sort of things. Sorry, no offense, but I think there is like that stereotype of like, oh, well, I have to have like a uni degree to like start this business, or I have to have this uni degree to do really well. But you've dropped out at year 10, and I guess like, do you have a message for people who are struggling to learn and cope in that environment that is so rigid?
I would say if you are going through that, I have a personal belief that because you are, there's a different way, or there's just something that you're very unique. And because you are that way, you have a gift in order to come out of it and show other people a different way of life. And because you're feeling lost, or you're feeling you don't conform into the society, or you just feel kind of defeated, I think that's a message in itself, that you don't want to go with the keeping up with the Joneses or the status quo or whatever. And overcoming that is going to bring out something in the future that's very essential. So I do think it's a gift, but you just got to be really strong about it. So
yeah, I think you're an incredible role model for people who, don't necessarily subscribe to the narrative, but still want to make it like big, or not big, but still want to make a life that's fulfilling for themselves, because they might sell themselves the fact that because they didn't quite achieve whether it's secondary or tertiary education, that they're not quite cut out for it. And I think there's just such an imposter syndrome that comes with even completing school. So I really admire the fact that you're going out and doing all these things and telling your story as well. And I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast. Is there anything that you'd like to leave on as well that you feel that I haven't quite touched on?
First of all, I want to say thank you for that. I don't know. I think the main thing that I want to say is, like, we have so much potential within ourselves, and the same energy and the same, how do I say this? The same energy that's running through our cells in our body is the same thing that's creating supernovas in distant galaxies. And we have that within ourselves, and we are so powerful beyond belief. If we just start to understand what we can do as humans, we're going to be creating such a better world. And I really feel like we need to open our eyes on how much we can do as people. So, yeah.
So incredible. Tash, how can people support you in this? If they're listening, if they want to get involved, how can they support you?
Yeah, support would be great for if you want to help youth, just with talking to them or hanging out with in our youth groups, just being supportive. Getting to know the community, and then I guess we can all learn from each other. So if you want to join, give me a message.
100%. We'll have all your links and everything in the show notes below. But again, I want to preface how grateful and thankful I am for you hopping on the podcast and sharing your story. I hope this gets in people's ears, because I think there's such an important narrative around being different and living in that and being okay with being different as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing, particularly when it comes to education. You can learn in such a vast amount of ways. Like, we have a plethora of resources and people that are putting out content and information and podcasts and outlets and everything that can educate us. So don't feel that, I guess, like a classic or traditional way of education is the only way and the way that's going to validate you. So yeah, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow at Life with Lamb podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Awesome.
Yay!
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Cool.